Okay, so this evening we're going to talk about scams, and I can draw from my background in law enforcement and some friends I have in the federal government I really hope, seriously, I hope a lot of senior citizens log on to this. And even if not, we're going to have it recorded, so if you know somebody who could benefit from this, definitely have them check out the recording afterwards. So we'll go through a few of these. I have to figure out how to use a PowerPoint. I'm very old-fashioned, but I got notes. Okay, so the first thing is basically types of scams, who's committing the fraud, why doesn't law enforcement stop them, how you can protect your family and yourself, what to do when you find yourself a victim of fraud. IRS tax scams, very common. They are getting old, people are getting wise to them, but they just come up with a new one. So check this out. My son is back there somewhere. Sometimes I witness to them, I tell them about Jesus, sometimes they curse me out, and I'm like, you called me. You should be listening to what I'm saying here, but other times I just keep them on the phone. I'll have it on the Bluetooth while I'm driving, just to stop them from bothering somebody else. I'll waste their time. But there's one thing, right? There's one thing that you can tell it's a scam. So first of all, the IRS doesn't call you and say, or the Social Security Administration, stay on the phone and go to the store and get a green dot money pack, and then we won't, suspend all the stupid things that they say. But there's one thing that if you feel like you're getting sucked in, and normally it'll be from an area code that's part of your cell phone. Okay, so I have a 908. And all these 908 numbers, I probably should get, there's all these different apps you can get to stop the spam calls, but they don't do it 100%. So I see a 908 number, usually it's a scam, and they'll say, your Social Security number has been suspended. For more information, press 1. You press 1. Right before somebody speaks, it must be an archaic system. It goes boop. Listen next time you get one of those calls. Just do it. You don't have to talk to them, but just see what I'm talking about. Press 1, and it'll go boop, and then the person will start talking. It makes a weird noise. It's almost like a glitch when they go to their next thief, okay? And that sound comes up, whether it's IRS, Social Security number. Listen, we got to get into your computer, Microsoft, your car's warranty. Oh my goodness, they drive you nuts. And to many of us, it's silly and ridiculous, but I know people that have been taken for like thousands of dollars. All right, here's another one to do. If you get it and you're not sure, see what number comes up and motion to somebody that you know and dial that number on their phone. It'll come back to nothing, or it'll come back to somebody saying, I didn't call you, I'm not the IRS. What they do is, it used to be called spoofing. And I just wish the phone companies would be a little bit more diligent with this. They cloak their numbers. So what they make you think is that so for me it's 908, it must be somebody that I know. But they cloak their number. Sometimes it's overseas. So people say, why can't law enforcement stop it? Because you have overseas issues and Interpol and, They do get caught sometimes overseas, and sometimes they do it from here. Okay. Let's see, IRS will be connected to several people before they tell you that the taxes are owed. And here's another thing to do is they try to keep you on the phone. They don't want you, and they'll say, don't talk to anybody in your house. So now you're starting to know that's not the way. Listen, Social Security, IRS, listen, the power of the federal government. There's ways they'll garnish your wages. I mean, they'll make your life miserable if you owe them money. You don't have to go to the store to Wawa and get a green dot money pack and give it to them over the phone. So you have to understand that. When told the money is owed, again, MoneyGram, Western Unit, green dot. And again, they want you to do it real quickly while you're on the phone. So it says, just hang up. The real IRS will never ask you to pay over the phone. Don't engage them. Again, Social Security immigration scam. And I do feel bad for people who maybe just came over to this country and they're not aware, and they get taken. They hear a phone call and it sounds like somebody in authority, So today, my son, we were driving, he was sitting next to me, he was just laughing at the stuff that I was saying to them. And then they would say, oh, you got to give us your credit card number. I'm like, okay. So I went 551. I just made up this number. And they're like, well, it doesn't match our records. I said, well, the whole conversation, you didn't even tell me who I am. I said, maybe you got the wrong person. Maybe you meant to call Bob Jones instead of Bill Johnson. I'm Bill Johnson. I'm not. So then they can't tell you who you are. Or they call you and say, your car's warranty is up. You need to give us money over the phone. And then I'd say, well, what kind of car? Which car? I got 3 of them. Your car. I'm like, well, I have 3 of them. So you have my information. Which car is it? They can't tell you because it's like a phishing thing. They call and they bombard all of our phones. They think that, a lot of them are overseas. They think all Americans are rich. Sadly, the ones they take advantage of are the elderly or people who don't have they're not on the phone that much. They don't understand. Maybe they're used to rotary phones. And I'm not trying to be funny. So the saddest thing is these people think Americans are all rich, and they usually take from people that can't afford it to begin with. That's the tragedy in all this. So they scare people who are immigrants. They threaten you that you'll lose your immigration status. I actually got so my web my web information or my email went through another company, an intermediary, and I looked up the company, and surprisingly, I ended up calling a number that it wasn't that company. It was a redirection. And I'm on the phone with the lady, and I'm familiar with when they say, give us your website, your IP address, and then they send you this information, you put in a code, and all of a sudden you remove your hand and your mouse is moving and they're doing the work for you. So I was probably in a hurry, and it sounded legit, and now they're immediately trying to delete my anti-spyware. So this is what I did. People panicked, like, oh my God, everything's... You start to realize that you've been taken. Don't shut your computer off. If you have Fios or you have a cable, pull it out of the wall. You have to break the connection. If you have a router, break that connection. Don't panic. So I did that, and she calls me back up, and she's like, oh, sir, we lost your communication. I said, nice try, you almost had me. This lady was cold as ice. No, she got a fish, and the fish got away. So you got to break that connection if you're on your computer. Otherwise, they'll take control of your computer. They'll get your personal information, and they got passwords, and then they'll lock out your computer, and then they'll send you an email and say, if you don't give us $500, all your information will be destroyed. So it's just a nightmare. So just be really careful who you're talking to, and especially who you allow to go onto your computer and start playing with it. Here's the other thing. My bank sent me an email, and they asked me for my password. They don't do that. The reason why banks give you passwords is so that it's for you personally. They don't even want their employees to know your password. So they say, well, give us your password, give us your social. Don't do that. Don't do that to anybody over an email. If you have any questions, if your realtor sent it to you, call your realtor. Don't send the information back, okay? A lot of us, we have so many accounts, and the passwords drive us nuts, and a lot of us use the same password. That's a problem. Because if they get one of some of you are smirking, if they get one of your bank account, they'll probably assume that your credit card information and all the way down the line you're using the same password. So it's a pain. Maybe keep a book somewhere. Don't keep it on your computer, because if they get into your computer and they got all your passwords, it's a pain. I know. I don't like changing them. And you really should change your password periodically. It's aggravating, but it'll also help to keep you out of this problem. Press a button connected to an operator. They don't want you to actually call the real Social Security or Immigration Service. There was one where they called me, and they're good. They actually spoofed, so it wasn't a bogus 908 number. It actually was an 888. It was the Social Security. So what I did was, while I'm on the phone, I'm looking at the number, and I put it in my computer. It says Social Security, So then with the other hand, I'm calling them just to see what their phone loop sounds like, and it didn't sound like this one. So they almost got me again. So my son laughs because I talk to them, and what is that? Oh yeah, 1809. 1809? No, it's 1811. And sometimes they just get so fed up with me, they hang up on me. So I know, well, it wasn't the Social Security Administration, was it? If you can raise your hand if you have any questions, but a lot of these things are, here's another thing to kind of prevent problems. You can go to Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Those are the credit monitoring companies. A lot of times for 6 months, they'll do it for free if you got taken or almost got taken. But, and I don't want to sound like a commercial, but there's LifeLock and there's other ones that they monitor all your information. They go on the dark web, and you pay them like $100 a year to monitor your Social Security number, your date of birth. It's funny, if my wife goes to Macy's and opens up a card because she's going to get a discount, she goes, I can't open the card. I'm like, yeah, it's LifeLock. They called me and they shut you down. Like they won't let anybody, department, it's a pain, but it'll also keep your identity from getting stolen. So, they'll send me on my cell phone. Did you just try to open up? If you don't say anything, they don't let it go through. If you say no, they don't let it go through. I mean, they're really good. So it's not a bad idea. There's also, again, I hate to sound like a commercial. There's a company called Home Title Lock, because people are getting their homes taken from them, their deeds, based on shenanigans done online, because even your deed with the county it's online. And some of these scammers find ways it's really messed up. These people are sick, right? Go ahead, Dominic. Yes. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I have the same philosophy with scammers. I like to keep them on the phone, especially when I'm driving, because it's the same philosophy that I invite them in. I just talk to them, waste their time, so that they don't go to my elderly neighbors and scam them. So whether it's cultists or scammers, I keep them on the phone. I'm doing a public service. But I do at times witness to them and tell them about Jesus, and on rare occasions, they'll actually ask me questions and let me pray with them over the phone. So I'm like, listen, you don't have to steal. If you really trust God, amazing. I've had some amazing conversations doing that. But I have to really be in the spirit, because these people irritate me, you know what I'm saying? Because they're thieves. Phone call stating a family member. That was one of the earlier ones. I would get, when I was in uniform, I was the station officer, and elderly people would come in, and they said, I got a call from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP. And they just take a stab at it. Oh, your grandson was up here, and he got caught drunk driving, and the rules are really strict here, and he's going to go to jail if you don't send us $500. That was one of the earlier scams, and people started to get wise to that, because people talk, and that's a good thing. But when they try to keep you on the phone, well, can I just call? No, you can't call him. You only have 5 minutes to do this. You should get suspicious. Well, what's my grandson's name? What does he look like? But they put people in so much fear that they don't think to ask these questions. Questions are important, right? I see this thing, lost wallet. I got to tell you that New York City is pretty much dead now, but I would have people very commonly, and very, very clever thieves. In New York City, in Times Square, Spider-Man, Batman, they would all have, right, a mask. Well, who stole my wallet? I don't know, it was Batman. He had a mask on, I don't know. So people would do this. You take a picture with Spider-Man, and they're good. They'll take your wallet right out of your pocket. You won't even know they took it out. So I would tell people, stay away from all the shenanigans, the weirdness in New York City. Don't go near these people. A lot of them are thieves. Yes? Equifax. Yes. And my experience with them is they'll do it free for so long, and then it's not free anymore. That's why I went with the other company. But hey, they're three credit reporting agencies, and they're usually very good with the public, as Todd was saying. So heck, if you can even get 6 months for free, take it. So here's one. I'm looking on here. It's Facebook posts. If you have your settings set, you gotta listen. If you don't know social media, you gotta ask somebody, how do I navigate this? Your posts you can show it, how do you feel today? Oh my goodness, talk about an open-ended question. I'm sure the NSA and the CIA love that stuff, you know what I'm saying? You're giving free information about yourself. I have a false date of birth. It says I live in Bat Cave, North Carolina. It's like, leave me alone. And then I got something, oh, we want to send our ballots to you in North Carolina. What's your address? I'm like, go away. I don't tell people my personal stuff. Even though my settings are set, who can see my posts? Friends. I'll go onto people's walls and it says everyone, public. Narcissism has a price. And then they'll put, oh, I'm going with the family to Lancaster for the day. I'll be gone all day. Oh, great. So if one of those people are a creep, or their friends of a friend is a creep, they just rob your house while you're gone to Lancaster all day. You see what I'm saying? We have to be more careful about who we share information with. So important. Yes. Sure. Even if a woman is, it's obvious on her thing, I'm a single mom of 3, I work all day. Oh, predators love that. Oh, well, there's no man in the house, and you're probably gone. What do your kids look like? It's disgusting. Or if you get even the monitors for your kids' room, and the little cameras, and they're so fun, they're convenient, and people put these really crummy passwords, and hackers get into it, and then they talk to the kid. It's just so weird. So it's like, take the extra step to put asterisks and capitals and exclamation points. If it has anything to do with your kids, change it up. Don't put, this is the password, my kid's name is Shelly. Shelly 1. Oh, that's a really hard one for a hacker to figure out. I'm trying to be funny, but I'm also trying to be serious at the same time. And I'm guilty too. I write little notes to myself. Change passwords. It's been 7 months. All right, I'll get around to changing all my stupid passwords. And they'll tell you, weak, strong. If it's a weak password and people know your family history, they can probably figure it out. Let's see, what else we got here? Oh, ooh, yes. Somebody I know came to me, and I know what you did, scam. He got an email. This is really sad. And it says, I know what you looked up on your internet. I know you were on a porn site. We have all your information. There's another reason to be above board. And I know somebody who panicked, probably because he was looking at something he shouldn't have been looking at. I'm not going to say any names. And he ended up giving the money because he didn't want his family to know what happened. So I said, listen, you need to get right with the Lord. I said, for that few $100s, I got one of these and I deleted it. I know what I look at on the computer. My life is boring. You could steal my computer and I wouldn't care. So I don't have passwords. I don't look at inappropriate things. So when I get a phishing kind of scam like that, I just delete it. Idiot. Click. Yeah, all right. You think you're going to get money from me. It's not going to happen. So, yeah, so I know what you did. And they can extrapolate. maybe from Facebook or social media. They can figure some things out, and you start to panic. The walls are closing in. Who is this person? Do they know where I live? Stop putting out so much information on Twitter and social media and stuff like that. Put a fake address, put a fake date of birth, right? So, all right, so they try to do this randomly to try to catch anybody willingly. And if they do it to 100 emails, even if they get 2, they might make $1,000. It's very lucrative. It's the war of attrition. It's blanketing you with numbers, okay? Jury duty scam. You missed jury duty, we're going to fine you. And again, they make it sound believable, and a lot of these agencies are not going to do this over the phone, So there's information in there as well. And this is sad. Recent example, inmates at a prison in Georgia who have internet access at the jail researched the federal court system in New Jersey. They called several victims and told them they missed jury duty and owed a fine. They had so much information about the court system, they were able to scam many people, including a defense attorney. Impersonation fraud. So usually my experience, I make all the excuses in the world for why I can't be on jury duty. I'm like, I did this 25 years, I don't want to go back. But they'll give you another chance, and sometimes they'll give you another chance, and it's not, well, we're calling you right now and we need 500. It doesn't work like that. So, romance scam, new and on the rise with the increased use of dating websites. People are using vulnerable and lonely people as victims. This is really dangerous, especially for young women. You don't know who these guys are. I mean, they could be looking to take you for sex trafficking. Oh, he said, of course he said, because they're good at what they do. They're gonna, I just love you for who you are, and I look at, your posts, and you seem like a very deep I could do that. So these people are very good at hooking you. And I'm amazed. And listen, men get scammed too. It's not just women. But, I'm going to go on a date with this person I never met, but we talked over the internet. My goodness. So, listen, I don't walk around like this. I'm not paranoid. But at the same time, I'm vigilant. I pay attention. You know what I'm saying? What happened here? I must have touched something I wasn't supposed to touch. Help, IT man. Hey, Jim Wilson, worship team, cool stuff. All right. Here, I got rid of it. I know a little bit about computers. I'm back. Yes, I am. Okay. It gets tough too if you go on, now the button's not working. I'll get you your exercise today. That's why I like the old school stuff. People do this too with like frauds. Like that's a little bit of a tougher one with eBay and such. People have been taken by that kind of thing, and send us money, and then it just. Do you really know that this person has the product, or are they just trying to fish you as well? Especially when it comes to a lot of money. 7, 8. All right, this thing is irritating me now. I'll just do it by hand. Credit card, debit card scams. Here's another thing. You go to the ATM, and you could, and I do this. I physically, so you put your credit card in for the ATM. I'll physically grab, just to make sure there's nothing. They put these little devices in there that slip in the slot where you would put your ATM card. And it has, if the bank people aren't checking it regularly, it'll send your card information to this guy who's probably around the block, sitting in his car. They have computers too, and now they got your information. So when you leave, then they go and they take everything they can out of your account. So if you see something that looks flimsy or flappy, or the card, the thing you put the card in is sticking out a little bit too much, pull on it. If it comes out, let the bank know, because it's probably something to capture your information. Let's see, scammers, skimmers. Yeah. So some ATM machines are not embedded in the bank, and they're more susceptible because they're not embedded in the bank and they're at these questionable places. Okay, the list continues. Every day new scams are initiated by scammers. If it can possibly make the money, they will give it a try. All right, let's try this one. Who are the scammers? Most of these individuals are committed by individuals outside the United States. I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but if they say I'm Mr. Johnson and they have a very hard accent to understand, it's probably not Mr. Johnson. So they have trouble with English, with grammar, and it doesn't mean it can't happen in a federal agency, but it just sounds so unprofessional. So let me put it all together before anybody gets mad at me. Listen, it's, trying to not get caught up in these things is not politically correct. You've got to think about it. You've got to think about who you're talking to. You've got to ask them questions, right? A lot of times they're not familiar with how things work in the United States, and there's a good telltale reason. You get emails that have really poor grammar or really poor spelling. It's probably a phishing scam, So why can't law enforcement stop them? Arrests are frequently made. It's not newsworthy. And unfortunately, it's also the politics. There's a lot of, federal government's been making a lot of great strides in stopping human trafficking, but do most of you know about this? You'll have to get it on another source because it's just the way things are. It's an election year. If they think it makes the president look good, they won't put it out there. Law enforcement's doing a heck of a job. I mean, millions of dollars are putting into stopping this, or the people in the DOJ and the FBI, they're doing some great work, and you just don't see it on the news. The marshals are doing incredible work with freeing kids that have been taken from their parents, and we just see the same stupid stuff every day in the media, unfortunately. So they are doing it. Again, anything that's overseas is a lot more challenging. One person commits a crime, conspiracy, 2 or more people commit a crime, organized crime, one head of the criminal enterprise. So these are all different reasons why it's very difficult. Spiderweb structure, we go to bank when we need a loan. Scam organizations collect money through the use of scams and sell money to clients just as a bank does here. They'll sell your information on the dark web. So it's a really seedy, dirty place on the website that allows this trafficking in personal information, social security number, address, all that stuff. That's why it's good to have either one of those 3 credit reporting agencies to help you out, or a company that does monitor the dark web and does let you know if an account is being opened in your name. So these people, when they need a few bucks, they pick up the phone and they call you. It's just the way they make a living. What can you do to protect yourself? Don't engage in any attempt to collect money from you over the phone. Just hang up the phone. As tempting as it may be to argue or play around with the scammer, just hanging up the phone is the best option. If they think you're a potential victim, they will sell your name and number as a lead to other scammers, leaving you to deal with more harassing calls. It's a call about your family member or friend in trouble. Get in contact with the family member, friend as soon as possible. So if someone's on the line with you and say, we have your grandson, write a note to somebody else who's in the house and call Johnny. And that person calls Johnny, well, I'm fine, Grandma, what's going on? Hang up the phone on that idiot. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't want you to do that. So and like with me, I get a phone number comes in, I go right to my computer, I looked it up, and I'll even put the number in and put scam next to it and see if other people said, oh yeah, that number called me too. So I'm like, all right, it's a scam. So there's a lot of things, a lot of ways you can protect yourself. So we talked about the dating websites. This is just, it's not a good idea to deal with strangers like that. And some of these sites will tell you, oh yeah, we vet them. Then ask them, well, how much do you vet them? Do you do background checks? How do you know these people that are signing up to your site that I'm potentially looking for a mate? Ask them, well, we have quality control. Well, what is your quality control? Ask questions, right? Don't be embarrassed. People, like I said, at times we rotated positions and I was inside, I was the station officer, and people would come in One lady was closing on a house, and she got an email from her realtor, and they said, oh, just deposit the rest of it in this bank. The poor lady was out 20 grand. Call the realtor. Realtors love picking up. And one thing I learned about realtors, they always pick up the phone. It could be 4 in the morning, they'll pick the phone up. They want to help you. They want to close the deal. So you see the email, call the realtor. Don't just, hey, did you just send me that? What are you talking about? No, that's not how we do it. Just if we take a minute or two as an intermediate step, we probably won't be taken. So I've seen a lot of things that have broken my heart as a police officer, even as a pastor. These are federal crimes. So wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, impersonation of, but again, if they're the most effective weapon against crime is cooperation, the efforts of all law enforcement agencies with the support and understanding of the American people. Working together is important. Law enforcement can't do it without help and cooperation of everyone. Together we can all minimize the damage caused by scams. Questions? So there's the website to the FBI, the IRS. Not a bad idea to check it every once in a while because they'll give out public information about what's going on. Here's another one, the Nixle in your town, the police department. If you get on, Jamesburg is great. They let us know there was a robbery down the street. We caught a burglary suspect. There was a shooting at so your police departments and your federal government want to help you. I mean, that's what they get paid for. So get on the local Nixle. If there's breaking and enterings in your neighborhood or on a certain street, and you're like, well, that's the next street down from me. Maybe you want to put your car in the garage that night. You want to be connected with law enforcement and all the things that they're doing. Any questions? Yeah.
So, working? All right. So, snail mail, right? You're going to get something in a piece of paper in the mailbox if somebody really wants you. And the only fraudulent activity in mail, I think, right now, we're told is voting. But that's a different story altogether.
That's another Wednesday night. Dominic?
Yeah, I actually heard when somebody calls you and they ask you questions, or especially your name, not to say yes.
Thank you. I had that in my notes. Because they'll take your voice when you say yes, and they'll charge you for a $100 overseas phone call for an hour. So they'll cut and paste your voice. They don't have as nice equipment as Pastor Paul, but they're pretty good at it, and they'll put it. I'm supposed to laugh at that. But yes could be for anything. You could be approving anything that they want to cut and paste your voice pattern with. And they'll ask you certain questions that seem disjointed, and they're just trying to get your voice to say certain things, and then they're going to do their own fraud with a company or a bank or something like that. And don't give passwords over really be suspicious of giving passwords to anybody, or the 4-digit PIN for your ATM, or and then if you make the 4-digit PIN so you can remember it your birthday, it's probably not a good idea, because they probably have your birthday and now they just, on a guess, use your 4-digit PIN, and now they're in your bank account. So, it's just not, I know it's a pain to change passwords and PINs. So,
just one note on the yes question. It could be, we think it might be a related question to the scam, but it could be something as innocuous as, so are you feeling okay today? Mm-hmm. And, you'll say, yes. And that's all it will take for them to just take that snippet of your voice. Or can you hear me? And I always say no, and then they talk louder. And they ask it again, and I said, no, I can't. I always say no.
I've also seen, it's sad, churches, be careful what you think you need with these overseas scams. Oh, so-and-so died and they were a devout Christian. They want to give your church $1 million. I just delete it. If they really want to give me $1 million, they'll send it to me. But you get into this back and forth it's just nonsense. It's a scam. If it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true, right? So it's just, some of these things are ridiculous, and pastors and churches have fallen for this stuff.
A scam call is coming in right now as we speak, right back here.
Who is?
A scam, Social Security scam call is coming in right now.
That's awesome. Wait, where's my phone?
like
They call me
perfect
all the
timing.
time. I think there's one also called, correct me if I'm wrong, it's stuck in my head, Nomo Robo. Has anyone heard of that one? There's a lot of these things that block these calls from coming in. A few quick other things. You know, when I was on patrol, and we got a few minutes, I used to do security surveys. They trained me to go out to people's homes. They said, hey, you know, there was a free service the police offered. I did it for residential and commercial. And, you know, when you plant stuff and use a landscaper, you know, when I come up here, I'm thinking of my wording. It's not all about the appearance of the shrubbery. And I got to tell you that the thing that you put in 2000, by 2010 can be blocking your basement windows. And what better way to hide between the house and the Leland cypress, and when nobody's around, they put their foot in it and they slide into your basement. So I am sometimes Heather and I will go for a walk and I'm like, that's not a good placement for trees, right? There's very poor lighting. So I would do, a lot of it was landscaping and lighting, 2 L's, big time. So you don't want landscaping to be blocking windows, especially not basement windows, blocking the front door, you know, so close to the house that it's just very easy for somebody to squeeze in like a bed bug between your exterior, and you might not even see them when you come home. They could be so embedded in there. You know, trim your stuff, you know, get a cheap $30 electric trimmers, right? You got to keep up on this stuff. And then when it comes to the lighting, I've seen people, the back of the house is big. They'll put lighting, and they'll put it where somebody, you know, 6 foot tall could just reach it and unscrew the bulb. And that's what they'll do. During the day, they'll unscrew the bulb just enough so it barely goes into the socket, but doesn't make contact. So when they go in later, the motion light doesn't go off. Put your stuff, get somebody, a professional, get it up at least 10 feet high or higher so that somebody can't reach it and either take the bulb out or just release it enough so that it doesn't go on at night. Look at the placement. Here's one. Have fun. Pretend you're a burglar. Walk around your house and say, now what is a vulnerability in my home that I would break in if I was a bad guy? And if you really think about it, put yourself in the bad guy's shoes, you can figure it out. You see what I'm saying? So these are a lot of things that you have to look at as well with your own home. You know, you want to defend it. Yes. Even the placement of where you put your children, right? What room, again, I don't want you to be paranoid, but, you know, let's say you're moving into a place and you got children, whatever, where are you going to put them that might look like a place that's vulnerable to somebody who would physically try to hurt them, right? You want to have that kind of castle doctrine going. Go ahead, Andy.
So I don't know if this is considered a scam or anything like that, but have you ever, somebody will call you, you don't understand, you don't recognize the number, and you pick it up and you say hello, and then nobody says anything, then you say hello again, and then people start talking. Is that anything, or have you ever experienced that before?
I mean, I've had that. I'm in a bad sale. Somebody that I know, but if it just sounds awkward, just hang up the phone. I mean, they might text you and say, hey, Andy, you hung up on me. Oh, I know who that is. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes I'll take the phone and I'll just put it to my ear. I won't even say anything, and they won't say anything on the other end at all.
You just...
Robocall?
Yeah. Also, even, let's say, I don't know, somebody, a political action committee or something, they're calling you, and maybe you're good with them. You know, maybe it's a police thing, maybe it's whatever. I tell you what, the artificial intelligence is so good on some of these calls that for the first few minutes, they respond to the things you say, and then they respond back. It just cuts down on their manpower. It's all AI. And then when you're ready to donate, they'll actually put you to a human. And it's really good. And I've been like, I'm sorry, I don't talk to robots, and I'll hang up. I know it's a robot. It's not a person. You can just tell, over time you can figure it out. So I'm suspicious of those too. I don't really like those. Yeah. What about Rachel from Card Member Services? She wants to give you a lower introductory interest rate. Rachel calls me 50 times a month, and I don't think it's Rachel. So, what else? Okay, so I think, let's see, what else do I have here? Microsoft, we talked about the computer, we talked about credit cards, talked about federal agencies, and a lot of times if you go onto the Social Security website, they'll tell you about some of the scams, and they'll tell you how they do business. So if somebody tries to do it in another way, you know it's not Social Security, right? Usually with Social Security is the Social Security, not everybody's had great experiences with them, but their desire is for you to keep that Social Security number, and they really want to help you and work with you. So if they call you and say they're from Social Security, and they're threatening and they're pressuring you, it's most likely it's not Social Security, because that agency is designed to help you and to maintain that number throughout your whole life. You know what I'm saying? Sweepstakes we covered. I had a lady in the church, and her mother came to visit her, and they both were outside, walking back and forth and panicking. And she says, I don't know, my mom's terrified, Social Security's on the phone. I said, ask your mom if she'll give me the phone. So she gave me the phone, and I was talking to the guy. I'm like, you're a scammer. And he goes, oh, ho, 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 and I hung up on him. But, they don't care. They're like, come get me. Come get in a plane and come get me. You don't even know where I am. So that's pretty much all I have. Does anybody have any questions? Gary? Nixel. I know South Brunswick, right, has it. A lot of local agencies have it. I know Jamesburg Police. This church is in Jamesburg. I check it frequently because it's church. I want to protect my church members. They're on Facebook. Jamesburg Police are awesome. If you're listening, Jamesburg, they're very good. It's a small town. They let you know what's going on. When COVID was happening, they let you know how many people got infected. Didn't say their names, of course, but so you have, if you're going to use social media, use it for good. So if you have Facebook, you check out your local police department, right? Check out your, if you're elderly, check out on your internet, your federal government agencies, see how they do business. Nixel is, you get alerts. Sometimes you can get them on your cell phone. And the police, you could be out for having dinner, and you got an alert, and it says, hey, tractor trailer overturned, and there's noxious, don't come home for a few hours. That's great. You don't drive through it. You got your Nixel alert. So, or they'll say, so-and-so got escaped from Middlesex County prison, and, they're at large, and, oh, I got a Nixel. Cool. I'd be more careful when I go home. But it's good, because you're in communication with your state, local, federal police, which is a great idea. Any other? Jim? Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of something. Yeah, is that, so if you get an email and it looks legit, but it's, Macy's and then it's RQB125, like all these weird characters after it, it's probably a scam. Yeah, and they're able to make the page look like this thing that you're interested in, but where the email is coming from is most people are just not looking at the trail of letters behind it. You know what I'm saying? So, anything else? Anybody else? I can't hear you. Yeah, all these random questionnaires, what's your spirit animal? What's your, somebody's collecting. You could take one of these questionnaires, and the next day you wake up and there's an ad for something that and it's like, it's creepy. Big tech, it's almost like it's an authoritarian government's dream. The wrong person gets a hold of this system, and they work with the NSA and stuff. Man, they got everything on you. So, like, even they're saying you need to update. So you want me to pay for more cloud? First of all, what I have is not important, but they want me to pay for more cloud storage. I'm like, I'm not paying for anything. I'm going to pay you to have all my pictures and stuff? No, I'm not giving you more cloud storage. I don't care. My pictures, if they're that important, I'll transfer them onto my desktop. Phones are also, they get hacked. You got to check with your carrier, see what type of anti-spyware and stuff that they have, because your phones people do all their banking on the phone and their emails and stuff, and there's another level of security you need. And you really should call your carrier and say, hey, what is my protection with my cell phone? You see what I'm saying? Anyone else? It's just an ugly world that we live in, and people, they just have no mercy. They don't care. You're a means to an end for them. Some people they're so hardened and so cold. You think about, like, human sex trafficking. I mean, what kind of sick person do you have to be to do that kind of stuff? So there's some really gruesome people out in the world, and my suggestion is don't give them any more information. Don't give them any of your personal information. We honestly, like, even on Facebook, it's who can see it? Friends, that's it. I don't need the whole world seeing what I put on there. And it could be innocuous, but, here's another one is, and I tell people on social media, I'm like, if you want to be my friend, and I say this periodically, and you want to send me an inbox, send me a message first telling me what you're sending me, because I don't open them. I get bombarded with videos and links. I never click them. Sorry, you think I blew you off as a Facebook friend, but I have a few hundred friends, and I don't know what you're sending me. And if you don't preface it, I don't know if it's really you. I have friends that have been hacked, and if I open it up, now I get hacked. So I just don't need the drama. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather have less social contacts and not have problems than to get caught up in one of these things. I don't need to know that many people. Anybody else? Yes, Lenny.
They interview a lot of the people that were involved with Facebook and Google, and they talk about how it scares them, the amount of information that's being stored and on everyone. But it's just a really interesting documentary. If you get a chance, it'll make you delete your apps.
Yeah, and a lot of the apps. Seriously, when you put an app on your phone, do you really read the 10 pages of, most people click, I agree. And then something happens, you're like, well, what? You agreed to these terms and conditions. They'll subsource questionable, companies to be able to have your personal, it's just, I'm going to leave you with this, because I'm probably going to leave you and scare you with this one, but a friend of mine, he's a younger guy, and he worked in big tech, and he said every single person in this country has some database somewhere stored. Big tech has all your information. They know where you shop. They have all your pictures. And they lie and say that they don't and blah, blah, blah. They're a bunch of liars. If that information got into the wrong hands, I'll tell you what, for a church, we could be what I would call being ghosted. So they didn't like my messages. It rubbed somebody the wrong way in power. I could disappear. So not physically, from YouTube, from Facebook, from Google. They're already doing it. Twitter. The censoring police is everywhere. They don't like what you say. They don't like your political affiliation. So they literally can ghost you. And the only people that would know about the church were people that either come here or were walking by. But you know what's really messed up? Google and a lot of these companies, the communist Chinese government says to Google, you can come in here, but you need to restrict the internet for my people. So it's really sad what communists do. So Google's like, okay, because they want the Chinese money, right? So this is what happens. And it's funny because they've been doing this for a while and playing footsie with these oppressive regimes, and now they're trying it here on Americans. So, and they all talk and they all get together, and I don't know. I don't know what things are going to look like in the next few years, but Hollywood put out a lot of movies like this. So don't go home paranoid. I'm not paranoid. When it comes, it comes. You know, I'll deal with it then. But you know, they've done it to pastors. They've ghosted pastors. They make them, again, if they don't physically make them disappear, they make them disappear from the web, from big tech. They all in agreement. Yep, that's offensive. And they, you know, in communist regimes, you can have a church, just don't talk about the risen Christ, because if you do, they'll force you to go underground. Well, we're going to close your church now, because you have to understand the communist mindset is that you worship the state, right? North Korean has a religion called Juche, and it's the worship of the communist state. You cannot worship Jesus Christ. You cannot talk about a living Savior and one that's going to come again in glory. They're threatened by it, right? Whose? Yeah. Right. If you ever read the book Tortured for Christ, Pastor Richard Wurmbrand and Sabina, they were Romanians, and after they suffered under the Nazis, then the communists came and they suffered under the communists. And the communists, I think it's the NKVD, they learned from the Nazis how to the Gestapo, and they took that same totalitarian attitude. Richard Wurmbrand, the communists had all the pastors come in this big concert hall, and they said, this is the way it's going to be. And a lot of the pastors were scared. And Richard Wurmbrand stood up, and he spoke about the glory of Christ and the risen Christ. Not long after that, he disappeared. They put a bag over his head. This is a true story. He disappeared for 14 years. His wife didn't know if he was alive or dead. They beat his feet, they whipped him. I saw a video, he testified before Congress, and he stood up and he took his shirt off and he turned around, and you could hear a pin drop when all those congressmen looked at all the scars on his back. These people are brutal. And there's people in this country that, oh yeah, let's try communism. Well, as the saying goes, you only get to vote for communism once, because you never go back. You want to give up representative government? We have our problems, but now it's becoming a discussion on, world, not even politics, world governments, right? I took governments in school. So anyway, so if you don't have any more questions, I'll stop babbling. Go ahead.
I just have a quick question. How often do you recommend changing passwords?
Honestly, it probably should be done every month. Even if you start rotating them, and you're like, oh, I've run out of things to put down. That's also not, this one thing will stop me, because there's technology now that let's say if you were at a public computer, there's technology that your keystrokes, right, when you go to put in your password, they can pull up your keystrokes and mimic what you just put in. And so it's, technology, like the good guys are, you should definitely have some type of, I have spyware and virus protection, and I've been doing pretty good. I haven't had a problem in a long time. And again, I don't want to sound like a commercial, but I've gone to Geek Squad, and they've been great the few times that I've had a problem, rare times. So, they've been able to help me and tell me what they did and how they fixed it, and they're pretty knowledgeable people. So computers are, listen, when I was a kid, there was no such thing as a computer, so I'm dating myself, The younger kids, the millennials, they know everything about computers. That's why I had to leave being a police officer. Everything became web-based, And I was calling on 20-year-olds. I don't know how to do this, you know. I'm like, I got to get out of this job. So, God bless them. Hopefully the Lord comes soon, because I can't even use a PowerPoint, as you can see. I got knowledge, but I can't figure out how to, whatever. Anyway, anybody else? Melissa? Don't scratch your nose, because I'm going to point you out. No. Anybody else? All right, so why don't we pray, and, let's, I just hope that we have a lot of views. I hope that a lot of elderly people have watched. I know that everybody probably learned at least one thing. So let's pray. Dear Lord, we just pray, and as shepherds, we also want to protect our flock, not only spiritually, but also, we don't want to see our people get taken. We don't want to see elderly people and vulnerable get taken advantage of. Lord, I just pray that whoever needs to see this, it's passed along, and somebody does see it, and they're educated and they're edified about what they could do and what they should do. So with all these things, we just pray that you watch over our spirit, our mind, and our bodies. And we just ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right.